Okay, today I thought let's get into some drama where we can actually debate whether someone's in the right or not. I'm reading stories from the Am I Overreacting subreddit, and some of these are absolutely wild. These are stories where people are genuinely unsure if their reaction to a situation was justified or if they went too far. Some of them are messy, some of them are heartbreaking, and some of them honestly just make me uncomfortable, but I think they're all worth reading and discussing. And while I'm reading these, I'm just going to relax and tend to my island, maybe do some decorating, talk to my villagers. Sometimes it's nice to just vibe in your Animal Crossing world while processing some relationship drama. Let's get into the first one. Am I overreacting by being mad that my boyfriend brought his mum on our romantic weekend? I'm a 25-year-old female, and my boyfriend is 27. For our 2-year anniversary, I planned a romantic weekend getaway. I booked a nice hotel, made dinner reservations, the whole thing. I was really excited about it. The day we're supposed to leave, my boyfriend picks me up, and his mum is in the car. I was confused and asked what was going on. He said his mum had been feeling lonely, and he thought it would be nice if she came along. He didn't ask me, he just invited her. I told him this was supposed to be a romantic trip for our anniversary. He said we could still have our anniversary. His mum would just be there too. She could do her own thing during the day, and we'd all have dinner together. I was so upset I didn't even know what to say. I didn't want to be rude to his mum, so I just went along with it. The entire weekend was awkward. His mum was with us for everything. She came to our couple's dinner. She wanted to do all the activities together. My boyfriend seemed completely oblivious to how weird this was. When we got back, I told him how hurt I was, that he'd ruined our anniversary trip. He said I was overreacting and being selfish. He said his mum needed cheering up and I should be more understanding. He said if I really loved him, I'd love his mum too, and wouldn't mind her being there. Now I'm wondering if I am being selfish. His mum is a widow, and maybe she does need the support. But I feel like our anniversary should have been about us. Am I overreacting? Okay, I'm just going to say it. This is insane. Like, who brings their mum on an anniversary trip without asking their partner first? That's not normal behaviour. I don't care how lonely his mum is. You don't do that. The comments are going off on this one. People are saying this is a major red flag, and that the boyfriend has serious boundary issues with his mother. Someone said this is classic enmeshment behaviour, where a parent and adult child have an unhealthy, overly close relationship. There's a whole thread of people sharing similar stories about partners who can't set boundaries with their parents. It's apparently super common. One person said their ex brought their mum on their honeymoon. Their honeymoon? Like, at what point do you realise that's not okay? I think what bothers me most is that he didn't even ask. He just made a unilateral decision about their shared trip. And then when she expressed her feelings, he called her selfish. That's gaslighting. He's making her feel bad for having completely reasonable expectations. This poster is definitely not overreacting. If anything, this is a sign of bigger problems to come. Let me work on this area while I read the next story. Am I overreacting by refusing to be in my brother's wedding because of who he's marrying? I'm a 32-year-old female, and my brother is 29. He's getting married in a few months to a woman I'll call Lisa. Here's the thing. Lisa used to be my best friend. We were inseparable for years. Then 5 years ago, she slept with my boyfriend at the time. My serious boyfriend, who I thought I was going to marry. She apologised and said it was a mistake. I cut her out of my life completely. I haven't spoken to her since. Now she's marrying my brother. They started dating about 2 years ago. My brother knew what happened between us. He asked if I was okay with him dating her, and I said no. He dated her anyway. I was hurt, but I tried to be civil for family events. Now they're engaged, and my brother asked me to be a bridesmaid. I said no. I told him I'd come to the wedding as a guest, but I wasn't going to stand up there and celebrate his marriage to someone who betrayed me. My brother is furious. He says I'm being petty and holding a grudge. He says what happened was 5 years ago, and I should be over it by now. My parents agree with him. They're saying I'm being selfish and making his wedding about me. They're saying Lisa has changed and I should forgive her, but I don't want to forgive her. I don't think I have to, and I definitely don't want to be in their wedding. My brother is now saying if I won't be a bridesmaid, I shouldn't come to the wedding at all. My whole family is taking his side. Am I overreacting? Should I just suck it up and be in the wedding? This is such a complicated situation. I can see why the poster is upset. Her former best friend betrayed her in like the worst possible way, and now she's expected to celebrate that person marrying into her family. That's rough. The comments are really split on this one. Some people are saying she needs to let go of the past and move on. 5 years is a long time, and people do change. Her brother has a right to marry who he wants, but other people are pointing out that forgiveness isn't mandatory. Just because time has passed doesn't mean the betrayal doesn't still hurt, and she's not trying to stop the wedding. She's just setting a boundary about her level of involvement. Someone made a really good point that the brother is being selfish too. He knew this would hurt his sister, and he chose to date Lisa anyway. That's his right. But he can't then demand that his sister be thrilled about it. There's also discussion about how the family is handling this. Calling her petty and selfish for having feelings about a legitimate betrayal is pretty dismissive. They're prioritising the brother's feelings over hers. I honestly don't know what the right answer is here. I think she's not overreacting by refusing to be a bridesmaid. That's too much to ask. But maybe she could still attend as a guest to maintain family peace. I don't know. This is messy. Let me keep working while I read another one. Am I overreacting by being upset that my husband told his friends I had a miscarriage when I asked him not to? I'm a 29-year-old female, and I had a miscarriage 2 months ago. It was devastating. My husband and I had been trying for a year, and we were so excited when I finally got pregnant. Losing the baby was the hardest thing I've ever been through. I'm a very private person, and I didn't want a lot of people knowing about the miscarriage. It felt too personal and too painful to share. I told my husband I only wanted our immediate family to know. He agreed. Last week we went to a party at his friend's house. I overheard him telling a group of his friends about the miscarriage. He was giving them details about what happened, how far along I was, how I reacted. I felt like I was going to throw up. I left the party immediately. My husband came home later, and I confronted him. I asked why he told his friends when I specifically asked him not to. He said he needed support too, and his friends were asking why we'd been distant lately. He said he had a right to talk about his grief with his friends. I told him I understood he was grieving too, but this was about my body and my medical situation. I should get to control who knows about it. He said I was being controlling and unreasonable. He said I can't dictate who he talks to about his feelings. Now we're barely speaking. His mum called me and said I'm being too sensitive and that he needs support from his friends. Am I overreacting? Does he have the right to share this even though I asked him not to? Oh man, this is a tough one. I can see both sides, but I'm leaning toward the poster being right here. Yes, he's grieving too. Yes, he deserves support. But this is ultimately about her body and her medical information. She should have the final say on who knows about it. The comments are mostly supporting the poster. People are pointing out that he could have talked to his friends about his grief without giving specific details about the miscarriage. He could have said we're going through something difficult without disclosing her private medical information. Someone made a really good point that if he needed support that badly, he could have talked to a therapist or joined a support group for people who've experienced pregnancy loss. Those are ways to get support without violating his wife's privacy. There's also a lot of anger toward the mother-in-law for calling and saying the poster is being too sensitive. She just lost a baby. She's allowed to have boundaries about who knows. The fact that her husband can't respect that is concerning. I think the bigger issue here is that they didn't communicate well about this. They should have had a more detailed conversation about what he could and couldn't share, and with whom. But the fact that he went behind her back after she made her wishes clear, that's a breach of trust. She's not overreacting. He violated her privacy during an incredibly vulnerable time. That's going to take time to rebuild trust from. Let me organise some things and read the next story. Am I overreacting by cancelling Thanksgiving because my family won't stop asking about my love life? I'm a 38-year-old female and I'm single. I've been single for about 3 years by choice. I dated someone for a long time, and when that relationship ended, I decided to focus on myself for a while. I'm genuinely happy being single right now. Every family gathering, my relatives interrogate me about my dating life. They ask if I'm seeing anyone. They try to set me up with people. They make comments about my biological clock. They ask what's wrong with me, that I can't find a man. It's exhausting and hurtful. Last Thanksgiving was particularly bad. Multiple relatives cornered me to ask about my love life. My aunt told me I was being too picky. My uncle said I was going to end up alone. My cousin tried to set me up with her husband's friend right there at dinner. I left early because I was so uncomfortable. This year I'm hosting Thanksgiving at my house. Last week I sent an email to my family saying that my love life is off limits for discussion. I said anyone who brings it up will be asked to leave. My mum called me and said I was overreacting. She said family is supposed to care about these things and I'm being too sensitive. She said I'm going to ruin Thanksgiving by making people walk on eggshells. Several other relatives have reached out saying I'm being unreasonable and controlling. Yesterday I decided to just cancel Thanksgiving altogether. I sent another email saying I'm no longer hosting and everyone will need to make other plans. Now my entire family is furious with me. They're saying I'm being dramatic and petty. They're saying I'm tearing the family apart over nothing. Am I overreacting? Should I have just dealt with the comments for one day? I don't think this person is overreacting at all. She set a clear boundary and her family immediately dismissed it. Then they're surprised when she doesn't want to host them. Make it make sense. The comments are very supportive of the poster. People are pointing out that constant pressure about being single can be really damaging, especially when you're happy with your life as it is. It's not harmless teasing, it's judgment. Someone shared a similar story about being constantly questioned about not having kids. They said they eventually stopped going to family events altogether because the comments never stopped. That's sad, but I understand it. There's a whole discussion about how society treats single women versus single men. Single men are bachelors, living their best lives. Single women are constantly asked what's wrong with them. It's a double standard. I also think it's telling that the family's response to her boundary was to call her too sensitive, instead of respecting her wishes. That shows they don't actually care about her comfort. They care about being able to say whatever they want without consequences. The poster tried to handle this respectfully by giving advance warning. They ignored her, so she cancelled. That seems like a natural consequence to me. She's not tearing the family apart. They tore it apart by refusing to respect a simple request. Good for her for standing her ground. Let me work on this section while I pull up another story. Am I overreacting by threatening to divorce my wife because she gave away my gaming console? I'm a 31-year-old male, and I'm a gamer. I've been gaming since I was a kid. It's my main hobby and how I decompress after work. I have a pretty expensive gaming setup that I've built over years. My wife has never been into gaming. She thinks it's a waste of time. We've had arguments about it before, but we usually compromise. I game after she goes to bed, or when she's out with friends. Last week, I came home from work, and my entire gaming setup was gone. All of it. My console, my games, my controllers, my headset, everything. I asked my wife where it was, and she said she donated it all to a charity. She said I was spending too much time gaming and not enough time with her. She said she was doing me a favour by getting rid of it. I was furious. That setup was worth thousands of dollars. Some of those games were collector's editions that I can't replace. I told her she had no right to get rid of my property without asking me. She said we're married, so it's community property, and she can do what she wants with it. I told her if she doesn't get my stuff back, I want a divorce. She thinks I'm overreacting and choosing video games over our marriage. Her friends have been messaging me, saying I'm being childish and that I need to grow up. My friends are saying I should absolutely divorce her because what she did was controlling and abusive. Am I overreacting? Is this really divorce-worthy? Okay, so I don't think threatening divorce is an overreaction here. What she did is actually really serious. She destroyed thousands of dollars worth of his property without his consent. That's not okay in any context. The comments are overwhelmingly on the poster's side. People are using words like financial abuse and controlling behaviour because that's exactly what this is. She unilaterally decided his hobby wasn't acceptable and destroyed his property. Someone pointed out that if the genders were reversed, everyone would immediately recognise this as abusive behaviour. If a husband threw away his wife's makeup collection or craft supplies because he thought she spent too much time on them, people would be outraged. This is the same thing. There's also discussion about whether the stuff can be recovered. Some charities have policies about returns within a certain time frame, but a lot of the collector's items are probably gone for good. I think the wife's justification is telling. She said he wasn't spending enough time with her, but instead of having a conversation about it like an adult, she just destroyed his stuff. That's not how you handle conflict in a healthy relationship. And the fact that her friends are calling him childish, they're missing the point entirely. This isn't about video games. It's about respect, boundaries, and property rights. If he can't trust her not to destroy his belongings, how can he trust her in other areas of the marriage? I think he should absolutely consider divorce. This is a massive breach of trust. Let me finish up here and read another one. Am I overreacting by refusing to let my sister bring her new boyfriend to Christmas? I'm a 35-year-old female, and my sister is 30. She's been dating her new boyfriend for about 3 months. Here's the issue. Her boyfriend is my ex-husband's brother. My ex-husband and I had a very messy divorce 2 years ago. He cheated on me multiple times, and the divorce was bitter. We don't speak. His family took his side during the divorce and said some really hurtful things about me. Now my sister is dating his brother. She says it just happened, and she didn't plan it, but I feel betrayed. Out of all the men in the world, she had to date someone from my ex's family. I'm hosting Christmas at my house this year. My sister asked if she could bring her boyfriend. I said no. I don't want anyone from my ex's family in my home. I don't want to make small talk with my ex-husband's brother at Christmas dinner. My sister is furious. She says I'm being petty and controlling. She says her boyfriend is a separate person from my ex. and I shouldn't judge him for his brother's actions. My parents are taking her side. They say I'm being unreasonable, and that I can't dictate who my sister dates. They're saying if I don't let her bring him, they won't come to Christmas either. Now I'm being pressured to either let him come or cancel Christmas altogether. My friends are split. Some think I'm right to set this boundary. Others think I'm being too harsh and should at least meet the guy before judging him. Am I overreacting? Should I just let him come to keep the peace? This is such a messy situation. I honestly don't know what the right answer is here. On one hand, I completely understand why the poster doesn't want her ex's brother at her house. That's uncomfortable and brings up a lot of painful memories. On the other hand, the sister has a right to date who she wants. The comments are really divided. Some people are saying the poster is being unfair. The boyfriend is his own person and shouldn't be blamed for his brother's actions. It's been 2 years since the divorce, and maybe it's time to move forward. But others are pointing out that this is a pretty big boundary to cross. Dating your sibling's ex's family member is generally considered off limits in most friend and family codes. It's just messy. Someone made a good point, that the sister should have talked to the poster before she started dating this guy. Like, hey, I met someone and there's a complication we need to discuss. Instead, she just did it and now expects everyone to be fine with it. There's also discussion about whether the parents threatening to skip Christmas is manipulative. They're essentially forcing her to choose between her comfort in her own home and having her family there. That's not fair. I think I'm leaning toward the poster being in the right here. It's her house, and she gets to decide who's invited. If the sister really wants to bring him, they can host at their place instead. But I also think maybe the poster should consider meeting him in a neutral setting first, just to see if they can coexist at family events. Because this issue isn't going away if the relationship is serious. This is going to be a long-term problem that needs addressing. But for this Christmas, I think she's allowed to say no. Let me work on organising my stuff while I read the next story. Am I overreacting by refusing to change my wedding date, even though it's the same day as my cousin's funeral? I'm a 28-year-old female, getting married in 2 weeks. I've been planning this wedding for over a year. Everything is booked and paid for. The venue, the caterer, the photographer, the band. We've sent out invitations. People have booked flights and hotels. 3 days ago, my cousin passed away unexpectedly. It's tragic, and I'm devastated. The funeral is being planned for the same day as my wedding. My aunt called me and asked if I could postpone my wedding so everyone can attend the funeral. I said I couldn't. Everything is already paid for and non-refundable. We'd lose tens of thousands of dollars. Most of our guests have already made travel arrangements. It would be impossible to reschedule at this point. My aunt is furious. She says I'm choosing a party over honouring my cousin. She says a wedding can be rescheduled, but a funeral can't. Other relatives are calling me selfish and heartless. My mum is caught in the middle. She understands why I can't reschedule, but she also wants to be at the funeral. She asked if I'd consider pushing the wedding ceremony to later in the day, so she could attend both. I told her the timeline is set, and I can't change it. Now half my family is saying they won't come to the wedding. They're calling me cold and saying I don't care about family. My fiancé thinks we should just postpone and eat the cost. He says it's the right thing to do. Am I overreacting by refusing to change the date? Should I postpone my wedding? Oh man, this is horrible. This is one of those situations where there's no good answer. Both events are important, and neither can really be moved. This is just terrible timing. The comments are all over the place on this one. Some people are saying she should postpone the wedding, because a death is more important than a wedding. Family should come first, and money can be earned back. But others are pointing out that postponing a wedding 2 weeks out is nearly impossible. They lose all their deposits. Their vendors might not be available for months, and their guests would lose money too. It's not that simple. Someone made a really good point, that the funeral doesn't have to be on that specific day. Many families wait a week or two for funerals, especially if there are scheduling conflicts. Could the aunt consider having the funeral a different day? There's also discussion about whether the family is being fair to the poster. She's not choosing a party over her cousin. She's in an impossible situation, with no good options. The fact that they're calling her heartless is really harsh. I think what bothers me is that the fiancé isn't supporting her. He thinks they should just postpone and lose all that money. That's easy to say, but that's their money. That might be their savings. That might set them back years financially. This is such a terrible situation. I honestly don't know what I would do. Part of me thinks she should stick with the wedding date, because it's too late to change. But part of me thinks she'll regret not being at the funeral. There's no right answer here. Whatever she chooses, some people will be upset. That's just the reality of the situation. Let me keep working while I read another story. Am I overreacting by blocking my dad after he announced my pregnancy on Facebook before I could. I'm a 24-year-old female, and I just found out I'm pregnant with my first child. My husband and I are thrilled. We told our immediate families last week, because we wanted them to know early, but we specifically asked everyone not to share the news publicly yet. I wanted to wait until after my first trimester to announce it on social media. I've had a miscarriage before, and I wanted to make sure everything was okay before going public. Everyone agreed to keep it private. 2 days later, my dad posted on Facebook, congratulating me and my husband on the pregnancy. He tagged us in the post. Within an hour, hundreds of people knew. My friends, my co-worker, distant relatives I haven't spoken to in years. Everyone was commenting and sharing the post. I called my dad immediately and asked him to take it down. He said it was too late. Everyone had already seen it. He didn't understand why I was upset. He said he was just excited to be a grandpa and wanted to share the good news. I told him I specifically asked him not to post about it, and he violated my trust. He said I was overreacting and being too controlling about something that affects the whole family. I blocked him on all social media and told him I needed space. Now my mum is calling me, saying I'm being too harsh. She says he made a mistake and I should forgive him. She says I'm ruining the excitement of the pregnancy by being angry. My siblings are also saying I'm overreacting and that I'm being too sensitive. Am I overreacting? Should I unblock him and move on? No, this person is not overreacting at all. Her dad completely disregarded her explicit wishes about her own pregnancy announcement. That's a huge violation. The comments are very supportive of the poster. People are pointing out that this wasn't his news to share. It was her pregnancy, her body, her announcement. He stole that moment from her. Someone shared a similar story about their mother-in-law announcing their pregnancy before they could. They said it permanently damaged their relationship, and they still haven't forgiven her years later. These moments matter. There's also a lot of discussion about the miscarriage history. The poster had a very valid reason for wanting to wait to announce. She wanted to make sure the pregnancy was viable before telling everyone. Now, if something goes wrong, she has to unannounce it to hundreds of people. That's traumatic. I think what frustrates me most is the dad's response. Instead of apologizing when he realized he messed up, he defended himself and called her controlling. That shows he doesn't actually understand or care that he hurt her, and the family pressuring her to forgive him. They're prioritizing his feelings over hers. She's the one who's pregnant. She's the one who has to deal with the consequences of his actions. She gets to be angry. Blocking him was a reasonable response. He proved he can't be trusted with private information. Why would she keep him on social media, where he can violate her privacy again? I hope he eventually apologizes for real, and they can repair their relationship. But she's not wrong for being upset and setting this boundary. Let me finish this area and read one more story. Am I overreacting by refusing to attend my best friend's wedding because she's making me lose weight to be a bridesmaid? I'm a 30-year-old female, and my best friend is getting married next year. She asked me to be a bridesmaid, and I was honoured. I said yes immediately. Last month, she took all the bridesmaids to look at dresses. She picked out a dress she loved and asked us all to try it on. The dress fit most of the bridesmaids fine. It didn't fit me. I'm plus-sized, and the dress didn't come in my size. My friend said not to worry. She'd figure something out. Last week, she called me and said she really loves that dress and wants all the bridesmaids to wear it. She asked if I'd be willing to lose weight so I could fit into it. She said she'd even pay for a gym membership and a nutritionist for me. She said she wants her wedding photos to look cohesive, and having me in a different dress would ruin the aesthetic. I was so hurt, I didn't even know what to say. She basically told me I'm too fat for her wedding photos. I told her I wasn't going to lose weight for her wedding, and that she should pick a dress that comes in all sizes. She got defensive and said she wasn't calling me fat. She said she's just asking me to get healthier, and that I should want to lose weight anyway. She said most people lose weight for weddings, and it's not a big deal. I told her I wouldn't be a bridesmaid under these conditions. She could either pick a new dress, or I'd step down. She said I was being unreasonable, and making her wedding about me. She said if I really cared about her, I'd do this one thing for her big day. I ended up telling her I'm not going to be in the wedding at all. Now she's saying if I'm not in the wedding, I shouldn't come as a guest either, because it will be awkward. Our entire friend group is involved now. Some people think I'm overreacting, and that I should just lose the weight since I have time. Others are supporting my decision and calling her fatphobic. Am I overreacting? Should I just try to lose the weight to keep the peace? Absolutely not. This person is not overreacting even a little bit. Asking someone to change their body for your wedding is completely out of line. I don't care how much you love a dress. The comments are unanimously supporting the poster. People are pointing out that a real friend would never ask this. A real friend would pick a dress that fits everyone, or allow different dresses. There are so many options that don't involve body shaming your bridesmaid. Someone said their friend had bridesmaids in different dresses, in the same colour family, and the photos looked beautiful. Another person said their wedding party all wore different styles in the same colour. There are ways to have a cohesive look without everyone being in identical dresses. There's also a lot of anger about the "get healthier" comment. The bride tried to frame this as being about health, but it's not. It's about appearance. She literally said she wants the photos to look cohesive. That's about aesthetics, not health. I think the most telling part is that the bride is now uninviting her from the wedding entirely, because she won't lose weight. That shows this friendship is conditional on the poster's appearance. That's not a real friendship. This is actually really sad. The poster thought this person was her best friend, but her best friend values wedding photos over their relationship. That has to hurt. I hope the poster finds better friends who appreciate her as she is. She deserves that. Let me wrap up what I'm doing here and read one last story. Am I overreacting by cancelling our family trip because my in-laws won't stop smoking around my kids? I'm a 33-year-old female with 2 kids, ages 4 and 6. Both of my children have asthma. It's well controlled with medication, but smoke is a major trigger for them. My in-laws are heavy smokers. They smoke in their house, in their car, pretty much everywhere. We've asked them not to smoke around our kids multiple times. They say they understand, but then they do it anyway. My husband's parents invited us to go on a beach vacation with them. They rented a beach house for a week. I was hesitant because of the smoking issue, but my husband really wanted to go. He promised he'd make sure his parents didn't smoke around the kids. We agreed to go. We got to the beach house 2 days ago. Within the first hour, my father-in-law was smoking on the deck while my kids were playing right there. I asked him to please smoke somewhere else. He said he was outside, so it was fine. I explained that the smoke was still affecting the kids. He said I was being overprotective. That night, my kids both had asthma flare-ups. They were wheezing and coughing all night. I had to use their rescue inhalers multiple times. The next morning, I told my husband we needed to leave. He said we should give it another chance and that he'd talk to his parents again. He talked to them, and they said they'd be more careful. That afternoon, my mother-in-law was smoking in the beach house. Inside the house where we're all staying, I packed up our stuff and told my husband we're leaving. He's furious with me. He says I'm overreacting and ruining the family vacation. His parents are upset and saying I'm being dramatic about the asthma. They're saying kids need to be exposed to things to build immunity. My husband is now saying I owe his parents an apology for leaving early and wasting their money on the rental. Am I overreacting? This person is absolutely not overreacting. Her kids have asthma. Smoke is a medical trigger. This isn't about being overprotective. This is about keeping her children safe and healthy. The comments are completely on the poster's side. People are furious at the in-laws and the husband. The in-laws are endangering the children's health, and the husband is prioritizing his parents' feelings over his kids' well-being. Someone pointed out that the building immunity comment is dangerously ignorant. That's not how asthma works. Exposing kids with asthma to their triggers doesn't make them stronger. It can actually make their asthma worse and potentially lead to a life-threatening attack. There's a whole discussion about the husband's role in this. He promised to make sure his parents didn't smoke around the kids, and then he failed to follow through. When his wife wanted to leave to protect their children, he called her dramatic. That's a serious problem. Multiple people are suggesting the poster consider whether this marriage is working. If her husband won't prioritize their children's health over his parents' smoking habit, that's a fundamental incompatibility. I completely agree with the poster's decision to leave. She gave them multiple chances, and they kept smoking around her kids anyway. At that point, what else could she do? Stay and let her children suffer? And the husband saying she owes his parents an apology. That's backwards. They owe her an apology for repeatedly endangering her children after being asked to stop. This whole situation makes me really angry on behalf of this poster and her kids. They deserve better from both the in-laws and the husband. She did the right thing by leaving and protecting her children. Alright, that's all the Am I Overreacting stories I have for you today. These were definitely intense. A lot of boundary violations, a lot of people not respecting each other's wishes, a lot of messy family dynamics. But I think these stories are important because they make us think about what's reasonable to expect from the people in our lives. A lot of these situations really come down to respect. If someone asks you not to do something and you do it anyway, you're showing that you don't respect them. And if someone expresses hurt and you tell them they're overreacting instead of listening, you're dismissing their feelings. That's not okay. So if you take anything away from these stories, I hope it's that setting boundaries is healthy and necessary. You're not overreacting just because someone tells you that you are. Trust your gut. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this, go ahead and subscribe, and maybe take a moment to think about your own boundaries and whether the people in your life are respecting them. If they're not, you're allowed to address that. You're not being dramatic or too sensitive. You're being reasonable. All right, I'm going to keep working on my island. Thanks for hanging out with me today. See you next time.